Conflict. Everybody say conflict.
Conflict.
All right, conflict is, what do you think of whenever you think of conflict? Problems.
Fighting.
Fighting. What else?
Arguing.
Arguing. Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah.
Okay, there are two types of conflict. Anybody remember which ones? We kind of talked about them the other day. What's one type? You don't have to use a fancy word.
External.
Okay, external. If I say external, we mean what? Things on the outside, like an exoskeleton, or things on the inside. What's inside of us?
Heart.
Okay, our hearts, organs,
Brain.
your brain. So maybe if you have something that hurts your heart, that might be a what? An internal conflict, because you're trying to decide what to do about it. Or if you're having to think something over and decide what you're going to do, would that be internal or external?
External.
With your brain and your mind? If it's just about you, inside your mind. Okay. Well, sometimes it's hard to tell the difference, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I found this little PowerPoint, and we're going to talk about it for just a minute. So these are the types of conflict, and we're going to go into a little bit more detail before you do your worksheet in your folders, okay? So the first thing that we're going to look at, hopefully this will work, is why is conflict important? Do you think it's important to have some conflict in a story that you read?
Yes.
In a movie that you watch?
Yes.
Absolutely. So it says without conflict, there is no what?
Plot.
Plot. What is a plot? Raise your hand if you can remember what plot is. Do you remember?
I haven't.
That's okay if you lost it. Matthew?
It's like what a character is trying to do.
Okay, sort of what a character is trying to do. Can you think of a better way to say it? The plot is kind of what happens in the story. It's everything. You have the rising action and the falling action and all of those things. So without conflict, it's hard to have any action, isn't it? All right, so the plot mountain is created around the conflict. Introduced in rising action. Do we have rising action in Number the Stars?
Yes.
Is it getting more and more exciting?
Yes.
Yeah. It is faced head on during the climax. Have we gotten to the climax yet?
No.
Oh, are we getting close?
Yes.
Oh, are you starting to like, please, Miss Hurley, don't let us stop reading.
Yes.
What's happening right now? What's some of the conflict that we see in Number the Stars? Give me somebody different. Mackenzie?
Mr. Rosin dropped an important packet.
Mr. Rosin has dropped an important packet, and where is Mr. Rosin and his fellow friends heading? Where are they going?
I'm going to
They're going to Sweden. Why?
It's a free country.
Why should they have to go to a free country?
Because they're
There's no
Jews.
Nazi soldiers there.
Exactly. All right. So conflict, again, it begins to work itself out during falling action, and we're not to the falling action yet. We're still right up there where things are pretty suspenseful. And it's resolved during the resolution. Are we to the conflict resolution yet?
No.
So the parts that we're going to be working on today in your folder are going to have to do with the rising action and getting toward the climax. And we're not going to worry about the resolution until after we read the whole book. Okay? All right. What does it say?
External conflict.
One more time.
External conflict.
One more time.
External conflict.
Alrighty. And an external conflict is between the character and an outside force. So external, we say external.
External.
Outside.
Outside.
External is outside. We can have man versus man. Okay? That means Justin against Miss Worley. Is that external or internal?
External.
Yeah, because we're two people. Man versus nature. You ever heard that show or watched that show? Man versus Wild? Yeah? Well, that's an external conflict. If you're trying to get home and there's a huge snowstorm, is that internal or external? Because it's something outside of yourself preventing you from getting there? Yes. All right, man versus society. And we talked about in history what society was. It has to do with the way of life and the way of thinking and values. Are there some society issues in Number the Stars?
Yes.
Are they? Who is versing society right now?
The Nazis.
Okay, well, the Nazis are kind of versing. I would say that the Jews versus the Nazis is kind of the same thing, that Nazi idea, because they're trying to make that a whole world idea, aren't they? Okay, so this is what kind of conflict? All right, say the three cons. Man versus man.
Man versus man.
Together.
Man versus nature.
Man
versus society.
Very nice. All right, so man versus man. Who wants to read the first one? Really loudly and clearly. Serenity? You want to try? If you don't want to, I'll have Alyssa do it. A character?
A character
Struggles.
a character struggles with author
Another.
of another character.
Okay, give me another one. Or read this, these are big words. Michi?
Protagonist against versus antagonist.
Antagonist. Everybody say protagonist.
Protagonist.
Antagonist.
Antagonist.
A protagonist is usually what?
Guy.
The good guy. And the antagonist is usually the
Bad
guy. So this is man versus man. Can you think of any examples of man versus man, two people against each other in a movie that you've watched, in a book that you've read? Anything like that? Nick? Okay, tell me the example of the conflict. Two people against each other. Man versus man. Okay, the Jews and the Nazis. That would be like two groups of people against, right? Was there ever a conflict between two people? Stephen?
I was thinking of an example of Civil War where it was the Union versus Confederacy.
I like that. I like that. So you had brother against brother sometimes, didn't you? Yes.
A Wrinkle in Time.
A Wrinkle in Time. Who was against whom?
The It and the girl Margot. I think.
Okay, is that a person and a person? Or is that something bigger than a person?
Well,
It is still good against evil. You're exactly right.
He looks like a human, but he's really not in the inside.
Okay, I like that. Mackenzie?
Mama and that Nazi soldier that slapped her.
Yes, absolutely. That was definite conflict. Two people, man versus woman in that case, wasn't it? All right, I like those. Let's look at the next one. Man versus
Nature.
Can you see okay? A character struggles with a force of nature, like a natural disaster, desolation, an animal. Usually the character is struggling to survive. Do we have that in the stars?
Yeah, kinda.
What was in the casket?
Blankets.
What if they didn't have those?
That probably
He would freeze to death and get so cold.
Is that man versus nature?
Yes.
Who helped him overcome that conflict?
Yes.
By doing what?
Giving them the blankets and coats.
You guys are too smart. Okay, can you think of any other examples of something that you've seen where someone has to struggle to survive because of something in nature happening? It can be an animal, it could be a natural disaster. What is something that's popping into your mind?
On Grown Ups 2 where that deer comes into the house.
Okay, the deer comes into the house. That would definitely cause some conflict. Matthew?
My father's best friend, he was up in a tree stand, and there were three black bears around his big tree, and he couldn't get out.
Okay, very nice. Did you lose it?
Have you seen the Alaskan show where they're up in Alaska? They're struggling against snow.
They're struggling